Welcome to Jaycee Reacts. Today, an architect, that's me, plays City Skylines. Now, before we can get the game started, I've got to set up my maps, themes, and mods, and that will be the main sort of focus for today's video. So I'm just going to speed up that part, and I'm not sure if I like the relight mod or if I'm missing something or if I'm not using it quite right. It looks, unless you do some very specific things, most of the LUTs look washed out. And I can't see any settings where I think, I did that. That's my fault that it's washed out. There's something not quite right. I'm not quite sure what it is. Um, so yeah, I'd like to know if anyone has any suggestions. The one thing I will check, sort of got that harsh Australian sort of sun thing going for it. Look, I don't know thematically what the plan is here. I don't even know what my approach is going to be here, whether I'm going to use ploppable Rico and just put buildings down, or whether I'm going to zone and watch stuff grow. I have no idea how to approach this. I haven't given it that much thought. When I made the map, so now we can see the differences with the camera mod installed. So I added this waterfall over here, which is pretty cool. Um, took away the back 3/4 of this to landscape here to make an island rather than just have this connecting off a solid terrain. And the reason I use the Prussian Peaks, the original Colossal Order map, is actually quite difficult. It's a difficult map to play, and for that reason, it's one of my favorite maps. This map that I've made it no easier, although I have made a couple of concessions. And one of the reasons I created this map, I think I said earlier, was I wanted to have some harbour connections, which the Prussian Peaks map doesn't have. And then as I was making it, I started sort of a little bit of forward planning, thinking that this mesa here would be a CBD, and this sort of plateau here would be an industrial warehouse area, like a distribution area. It's not all that big, so it would be one of several. Another flat area to build next to the mesa for, I don't know, probably high density res. I'm not sure. That could be a commercial strip. It could be a tourist strip. Who knows? It was just, if you're going to have the CBD here, you'd have something next to it on the waterfront, even if it is 300 meters off the ground or off the water level. I added a second or third mesa in here, which I have a rough idea what it's going to be. This is going to be old money, this area. In fact, the entire starting point will be old money. I'm thinking if I do ploppable, or even if I do it themed using the theme manager, and these will be all Art Deco buildings down here. We'll have a rise up a ramp slash hill to the top of the mesa here. As I said, like I laid out some fertile ground here for farming. I think I put my oil up here and my ore up here. Um, I think that's right. Yep. So a decent swath of patch of oil and a fairly large patch of ore, although that will be difficult to get to. And it's also on the very edge of the map, so I won't get to it all that early. But yeah, that'll be quite difficult to build on. Uh, I'm an architect, not a town planner. I'm actually not that great at this game. My skills lie in designing individual buildings, not entire cities. I'm not an urban planner either. In fact, an architect and a city planner, we don't actually get along that well. It's sort of like what's a good comparison? I guess it'd be like a prosecutor and a defense attorney. The professions are similar, but where they're going. Well, the professions are the same, but how they get into their end destination is quite different. The first thing we learn, an architect will learn at uni is about how a building or a form will be the term used at uni, must address its local context. Whereas a whereas a town planner, they spend all their time at uni.
Here is an ordinary square. Whoa, whoa, slow down, egghead.
And then when they figure out, what a square is, they learn how to put it in a grid. I shouldn't say that. I'm going to. I stand by every word of it, but I shouldn't say that. So the one thing I'm not happy with, that's right, with this is the sand. It does look like a British beach in that it's way more rocks than it is actual sand. All right, so let's fix that. Oh, there we go. That looks like a decent compromise. Again, I keep rabbiting on about the whole Australian thing, and this doesn't necessarily, or isn't necessarily going to be any sort of an Australian themed build. I have noticed that most YouTubers who play this game on YouTube are Australian for some reason. It's a bit weird. Um, I don't know why that is. There are obvious exceptions, quite a number of them, but most of the random videos I sort of ran across doing a little bit of research to start doing this, they're all Australian, or mostly Australian. It's kind of weird. Um, all right, so a little bit about what I've done and sort of prepared for the city. Like I said, I knew full well this would be largely residential, and obviously where we start would be a bit of an old money thing. So this is fairly flat. I've put a key wall in along here, so the idea would be that outside this road would be low density res, and on the Mesa side of the road, all the way up along the quay, would be high density res. Again, keeping with that sort of old money theme. I think if you've ever been to Sydney, Kirribilli, which is very Art Deco, very 20s and 30s sort of established wealth that is right on Sydney Harbour. It's a great. I lived in Kirribilli for a short period of time. It's a great suburb, great place to live. My ex though disagreed, which is why we moved out. But yeah, there you go. The rock shed. This was an absolute nightmare to build. I was going to, mostly because the camera keeps bouncing when you get in close and try to move it. I'm going to see if I can fix this. I couldn't. This was the best I could do with the terrain in the editor. But I have noticed that in the game, certain elements of the terrain have smoothed out way better than they looked in the editor, including this area here, which looked much worse. I have a mod which I will use here as well and see how that cleans up. The water doesn't quite play nicely, but maybe, as I said. Anyway, the rock shed is I had to make these manually. I made one of them and then just copied them and rotated them, and that was a lot of fun because, as I said, when you grab stuff here and like the camera would just keep bouncing as I was trying to move stuff and trying to line it up behind these light poles and the edge to sort of make sure they were relatively equidistantly spaced and looked sort of realistic. They turned out okay. I mean, at one point I was going to open up 3D Studio Max and start modeling something that looked way more real. But I couldn't. I don't want to go to that sort of effort just to play a video game and do something a little creative. So bugger that. I mean, it's probably pretty simple to import models and stuff. And let's move this to import models and stuff into the game, but I just don't want to go to that sort of effort. And then the question of scaling, which I find this game is questionable at anyway. The scale in this game is way off in places, way off actually. So I didn't want to muck around with that either and deal with that aspect. So yeah, she is what she is, and let's. I've got to fix something. I can't cope with it. I'm too banal to just put up with that unnecessary shit like that. So all these, you'll notice when I set them up, they've all nicely sort of, and I will, before I start building, or when we get round to this particular area of the map, I'll put in some line intersection tool markings and stuff like that. This area here, I set myself a little bit of a challenge. I'll probably lift the train line up because it is coming. It's rising to 50 meters, these bridge heights, which was what I determined would be high enough to get boats and shit underneath it, ferries and hopefully cargo ships. Um, this here, the reason, and you'll see it over here as well, where it looks really bad, like that there, and there's plenty of them with the roads. It's because when you build tunnels in the map editor, they show the tunnels correctly, but when you load them into the game, they're filled in. There's terrain there, and the cars just drive through it, and it just does. I'm too much of a perfectionist for that sort of crap. I won't put up with that. It does my head in. Can't have that at all. So I decided it's better to, when mucking around with the map editor, to just leave this horrendous sort of look, and it is horrendous. But then I'll just make them tunnels later on when we sort of get near that area. I could go around the whole thing now and do it now, given that I've got infinite money. But I do want to turn money back on at some stage. I don't want to just play through this. Well, maybe. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Um, if I leave it as a sandbox, I will lose interest. Um, but given that what I want to do here, which again is largely up in the air, the most difficult part of the game is getting started. If you muck your start up, it's very easy to find yourself in a position where you just have to start again. And like I said, I'm no expert on this game. I am decent at it. I do feel like I've got a relatively good grip in it, but don't be surprised if later on down the track where I'm dealing with traffic crises left, right, and centre. And that is basically the hub of the game. Like as any urban planner will say to you, the game is not just old in terms of, it came out in what, 2014, 2015. It's old in terms of its approach to how a city works, and the modern line of thinking is to get away from these massive highways and car-driven, car-fueled suburbs and suburbia that just don't work anymore, and really haven't worked even from day dot. Um, the future is, as we're finding out in Sydney. I mean, Sydney, and I live in Sydney, is one of I think it's Los Angeles is the largest geographical city in the world. And you have a look on highways and stuff like that. It's just an absolute nightmare. The American culture with the car is mental. But Australian culture with regards to the car isn't vastly different. And the approach here in Sydney now is to move away from a single CBD. We have sort of two, but they're right next to each other on one on each side of the harbour. We've got Central Sydney CBD and North Sydney, which is across the Harbour Bridge. The idea moving forward will be to establish 3 or 4 more central business districts that are well spread out across what is a pretty large geographical area. I mean, for the British who may be watching, Manchester and Liverpool fit inside Sydney's metropolitan area, which is just ridiculous given how much more populated those two cities are. And Sydney's only about 5.5 million at the absolute most. So in terms of population, it's not a very big city at all, but geographically it's huge. But I'm not here to address that. I'm here to play City Skylines, and I'm going to copy those sins. We'll have urban sprawl coming out of the wazoo here, and we won't care. We'll have little villages and suburbs over here that have got to drive to get to work or deliver stuff over here, and same here and same up here, and we'll have a little touristy industry somewhere over here, and yeah, I don't know. I'll figure it out, or we'll all figure it out. I'll be taking suggestions in the comments and about what to do with certain areas. Not yet. Maybe start of the next video when we start laying stuff out. For now, I guess the final thing is I will, if enough people are interested, probably make this map available. I did make it, as I said, with as few mods activated as possible. You need a few assets like the bridges. So we've got I can never remember the names of them. So this is the One, Aone, Aonei. I actually criminally don't know where this bridge is from. It is really bloody cool, and I chucked on the train line on the inside. That probably shouldn't be. That definitely shouldn't be there. But this was a nice job getting this to fix. The electricity is from the bridge being flooded when I put keys down and changed water depths so to make sure that ships could get through. And somehow these got flooded, and that turned on. I don't know how, don't know why. Putting the keys down caused this thing to flood multiple times, caused this whole area to flood multiple times. It was a lot of fun, which is why I'm actually really glad I did it in the map editor rather than in the game. But I suspect I'll be putting down a few more keyed areas, possibly even around here, and that may lead to much hilarity. Hmm, looking forward to that. All right, so the other bridges, there's two of them. We've got the Bolt Bridge, Melbourne, which is in Melbourne, sorry. Um, it was built after I lived in Melbourne for a year about 10 years ago. I think it was built after that because I don't remember seeing it. It's only, it's two of these third pole here. That, so, if you cover up these two outside poles on the right, it would be just one road going through two of these. It looks pretty cool. The photo I saw of it, it does look pretty cool. It looks really minimalist and yeah, and so pretty simple to make as well for a game like this. So I just duplicated it because, I wanted my 8 lanes of highway running through there. My little banalities, I had to put this down and fix it all up, and these are all the same distance, and the 4 lanes split nicely into two. I am really banal about that sort of shit because in real life, engineers and architects tend to be banal about that sort of shit. And then we've got this bridge is Dutch, I think. I think it's the Erasmus Bridge. Now there should only be one of them, and again, same thing, flooded. Yeah, now there should definitely only be one of them. But when I realised how nicely or neatly it fit inside the driving lanes, I mean that looks like a bit of a hazard having that pole. No, it's pretty far away. That's all right. Oh, it's rotation slightly off. Oh no, that'll be the angle. That's the angle. Is that the same? Yeah, it's the angle. That rotation looks slightly off as well, but they can't be. Um, so yeah, I just sort of mirrored it and rotated it and went, that looks really freaking cool with two of them there. Why the hell not? And again, 50 meters above sea level, so as ships can fit under it. I don't think I've got any coming through here. So I'm going to download a few more bridges. I had heaps of them for expanses like this. Probably keep the overground, although that really should be a viaduct coming through there. That should be the stone wall with the arches and shit under it traditionally when it's on ground. We'll have a look at that. In fact, yeah, definitely. And we should run it sort of to there and then have a fancy dancy bridge going across. And I think I've got two more bridges I need, fancy Dan ones. It's difficult when you've got 4 lane highways. The workshop doesn't have a lot of bridges that wide or this short because they're not massive. They're not hugely. Have I got the tool that lets me build it outside here on? I do. So I can check how long this bridge is. Say 60 units, which is 8 meters a unit. It's 240 meters. Yeah, it's not tiny, but it's not massive. 480 units, 480 meters, sorry. 60 units, it's 8 meters a unit. It's 400, I don't know. So it'll be similar here. Yeah. I'm an architect. We don't need to count. And that's my story, and I'll stick to it. So yeah, similar sort of proposition here. All right, so before we get started, which will more than likely be in the next video, because I will keep them at around half an hour a pop. I guess I should go through the mods that I have and the milestones. I've turned on, as I said, I've turned on the basic roads. They should be available at landscaping. All right, so if anyone, look, and it actually says landscaping. It doesn't say terraforming. Terraforming is the process with which you convert an alien environment to one which is suitable for human habitation. Putting an atmosphere on Mars, that's terraforming. Landscaping, or bulk X as some people will refer to it, is when you modify the land to suit a building. The number of people, this does my head in. It's such a minor thing. I know it's so minor. But the number of people who will say, right, I'll just grab a terraforming tool and start chiseling away at this mountain here. Dude, it literally says landscaping right there. Stop it. Get it right. Okay. Anyway, back to the roads. No. We're looking here. So I believe everything will unlock all the extra 25 tiles. I'm not using the 81 tiles mod because it does break the game. But basically everything else except for the landscaping and some of the vanilla roads are locked, and I'll need to get through each of these population barriers to unlock them, just as if we're playing a real game. I don't know if that's smart or not. Okay, so mods. Quick run through, and then we'll call it a video. And at the start of the next one, we'll start building stuff. Options. Okay. So as I said earlier, I vehemently believe this game is unplayable without them. And if you're wondering why there's black bars at the top and bottom of your screen, that's why I have a ultra widescreen monitor, which I will upres for YouTube to 4K. Will be it. I have switched off disasters because they are a disaster. I may switch off the day-night cycle if I'm finding that night time's too difficult to see anything. We'll see how that goes. I did try and reduce the number of mods I've got going in, and only went for ones that, from memory, I thought were, you must have this. Like Bob. You must have Bob.
Well, Bob, welcome on board.
And like, I don't build the grids because that's boring. And so I throw down a lot of curves and stuff on roads, and that is going to lead to this being fairly handy. Okay, the electric roads mod. I use this and I don't care who bitches about it. I love it. It is the single greatest mod ever. I wouldn't play the game without it now. I really wouldn't. The client's fine road tools, again, this game is not playable without them. It is that simple. It is not playable without them. If someone from Colossal Order sees this, please take note, right? RL is relative level. It's relative to sea level. It's not relative to the ground or to Bob's Pizza he had last Wednesday or to, the nearest building or whatever. It is relative to sea level. So this 18 meters above ground here shouldn't still read 18 meters here. Like 18 meters here, actually, I should have done the other way around, is very different to 18 meters. It is just just make it relative to sea level. We don't need to know. You can have a second line error if you hold down shift, like the precision engineering tools that show you, all right, this is how long it is, 448 meters, and if you do it over a slope, I go like that. There you go. It'll tell you the elevation, right? You could still have that as a secondary, but I don't care when I'm trying to build a road what its level it is relative to the ground. It very rarely matters to me. I know it's going to matter when doing off ramps and stuff like that, but turning on the secondary contours would be more useful for that sort of information if everything's relative to sea level than just having these random numbers. I've installed mods to tell me this information. When I'm going to hook it up to here, the game doesn't tell me any of this crap. Again, why I say it's unplayable without, well, it's borderline unplayable without these mods. And Colossal Order should be all over this, but that one in particular really bugs the hell out of me. I know it's, if you don't work in the building industry, you probably don't give a shit and are happy with the way it is. But for me, the reason the building industry conforms to this standard is because it makes sense. It's as simple as that. It's easy to construct when you have a single point of measurement to spring from. This is really cool. You have all your mods here and then you save it and it'll remember the configuration of all your mods, which can be useful. Move It is the single greatest mod ever made, and I've probably said that about 10 different mods now. Again, wouldn't play the game without this. It is amazing. Network Multi-Tool is the single greatest mod ever made. It's a great mod. What can I say? Again, you must have it installed. You must use it. It is a must. Node controller renewal, again, the single greatest mod ever made. It's a must. You've got to have it. Can't play it without it. Nodes. Realistic population fixes the game. The game, death waves, etc. The game is broken without this. It is so broken without this. It is. I know I keep saying it's borderline unplayable, and this mod is one of the fixes that makes it playable. The Is it this one, or have I got this lifestyle? Is it lifestyle rebalanced? It could be the life cycle rebalance. I don't know. The combination of these two mods, I don't care. I get the gist of what they do. I don't remember which one does exactly what. I haven't actually. I don't ever use it, to be honest. I've never really sat down and, played this like a town planning sort of thing and plopped down individual buildings rather than just using growables. And the reason for that is because it's a game, and I don't want a sandbox. I want to play a game. Um, I need to check before I start this little city, um, how the building progression works, because I don't want to have to do it manually. I don't want to have to level buildings up manually. I'm not doing that. And I don't want buildings to be stuck on a single level just because, and I've already switched these off, like to ignore stuff. I don't care. I don't want buildings to do that. I want to play the game. I want to fix problems that the game, however flawed it may be, throws up at me. I understand, like this one, for instance, I've switched off disasters anyway, but if I hadn't, this would be just something you'd have to live with for having this particular mod. If I plop down a Rico building, it's not going to be blown up by disaster. Okay, fair enough. That's just one of the trade-offs. So yeah, what I do need to know is there is a chain. I think the way it works is that a level 1 building will follow a very predetermined path to level 5, I think. And the buildings are quite similar in this chain. Um, they're not massively different. I think that's how it works. If that is how it works, and I'm plopping down a Sydney Terrace at level 1, and there's a Sydney Terrace level 5 that looks quite similar to it, that's just a little bit bigger and a little bit fancier, sweet. But if it's not that, and that Sydney Terrace could turn into something else completely, then I think I'll start using themes, and we'll just use zones. I don't know. Roads color changer. That's how I get the roads to look so dark. And I set them to 60, all three of them. Actually, on roundabouts, I think I'll get to that in a future video, but I was stunned with how many people, when watching some videos, again, doing a little bit of competition research, if you will. It's not, but how many people don't understand what the hell a roundabout is. It blows my mind. Simulation accuracy, very high. Gameplay, no, we like it. I see the problem with changing this. I never know then what's just the game's really dumb AI versus uh, is traffic manager just throwing in a little bit of realism for us. So I'll leave that on 0. Road condition, no. Disable despawning. Yeah, okay. Enable advanced vehicle AI. It's get all the way up there. I don't know. In my mind, this says that the AI can change lanes anywhere, but I know that's not the case. They only ever change lanes at nodes, so I don't know what specifically this does. I've heard people say that having this on can slow down your simulation, can clog up your game, but I don't have any worries about that. We'll enable more realistic parking, and we will do that as well. Five million 242,880 trees. So when I finished this map, I had a tick under 100. I had 99,500, I think, from memory. I didn't know I was allowed 5 million of them. Bloody hell. All right, so I think that will do it for this video. So yeah, we've played City Skylines where we haven't done a bloody thing. But I do know, having, as I said, seen a few other of the videos of this sort, that the fairly common questions come up early about, what map, what's your LUT, what's your color correction. Oh, did it again. What's your LUT? What's your map theme? How do you make the roads lighter or darker? Or what roads are you using and what mods are in there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're good to go. And yeah, hopefully this first video where I've done absolutely nothing doesn't scare you away from future videos. I promise in the next video we'll actually start playing City Skylines. Thanks for joining us.